What addiction is the hardest to quit? Story 1. So heroin is fucking brutal with the physical withdrawals. Alcohol can kill you and the hallucinations are pretty intense. Methamphetamines is a physiological mindfuck. These damn cigarettes and caffeinated coffee I can't give up. I'd probably try a quaalude or ayahuasca if given the opportunity because they have eluded my long, strange trip through existence so far while suffering the human condition. Story 2. Anecdotal, I admit, but nicotine. I was an alcoholic, sober 10+ years. Quitting was hard work, but nowhere near as difficult as quitting smoking. A friend from rehab told me the same heroin. For alcohol and even more, heroin. The immediate withdrawals are much worse than for stopping nicotine, but if you tough it out for a week or two, they are pretty much done. For nicotine, cravings can pop up again for months. Story 3. I've been doing 1 to 2 g of cocaine a day for about 6 weeks straight. It's so addictive. The high is incredible. The physical and mental side effects can be quite scary, sometimes nausea, headaches, sweating, very high heart rate. But then when I'm sober, I just feel dead inside, depressed, nihilistic. I need other sources of happiness. It always comes back to sex, the greatest pleasure we can experience as humans. Porn and video games are also very powerful, and caffeine and sugar. Story 4. I quit drinking cold turkey. I was using it to suppress my anxiety, but what I failed to realize was drinking was causing my anxiety to be significantly higher than it would have been without it. A nice realization. I love the ritual of drinking, so I stick to non-alcoholic beer, which still gives me a calming effect without the drawbacks, and it's way cheaper. I tend not to have a very addictive personality, which is great. I've tried cocaine, marijuana, cigarettes before, and nothing ever really hooks me. I tend to stay away from any sort of drug. Story 5. Eating. And I don't even mean like overeating or a disorder, just changing your diet. Kicking sugar is harder to kick than cocaine IMO. I've heard literal heroin addicts who have gotten clean say that kicking junk food is actually harder. Telling someone they can't eat cheese for the rest of their life, but they do anyways, despite maybe horrible lactose intolerance consequences. We see PPL addicted to food every day. Addicted to coffee. I've seen PPL lose it like I took their needles when they run out of coffee. Story 6. I think overeating is a difficult one. There's a point in life where we go from eating smaller kids' portions to a more adult portion of food, and from there you sort of want more after that. I'm not overweight, but I do struggle with eating too much. I buy a few things and almost feel as if I have to eat it all in that day. No clue why, I just do it. It's a tough one to stop, I feel like. Drinking more water and trying to fill yourself up a little so you don't feel hungry seems like a healthier and easier way to combat it. So I guess I would say not very good self-control is an addiction. Story 7. Benzodiazepines. Literally almost killed me coming off them. I had a grand mal seizure and am lucky to have made it as long as I have off the shit. It was literally 2 months of the most unimaginable hell inside of my head and weakness in my body I have never experienced before. I had trouble eating, my metabolism basically stopped, and sleeping was near impossible. When I did sleep, I had the most vivid nightmares I have ever had, and would wake up absolutely drenched in sweat. It also gets worse each time you have to come off. That stuff is poison. Story 8. IDKA, I became a self-harm addict at 10 years old. I was doing it several times a day, and if I didn't do it, I went through different kinds of withdrawals, but mainly mental. I was at the point of doing it whenever and wherever, even school. Nobody seems to understand that self-harm can give you a high. It releases adrenaline and endorphins in the brain, making you feel good, and eventually you get addicted to the relief and rely on it. Still have urges every day and stuck with lifelong scars, but at least I've been clean for a few months. Story 9. Caffeine only because most people probably don't consider it anything more than another drink. Even if you do and get through the withdrawals, you will slowly get back on it as lifestyle creep, or realizing what it's like to actually not be on it. It has to be the thing that makes people feel normal, or at a new baseline. It's no longer a drug to get you up or energized, but to get you to a normal functional level. Story 10. Cigarettes. I smoked for 10 years and have been smoke-free for 10 years. I still think about smoking and miss it. Some days or weeks go by and I don't think about having one at all. Then out of nowhere, I'll just suddenly want one and have to talk myself out of buying a pack. The cravings never went away. Story 11. For me, it's escapism. Spending too much time online or gaming or just role-playing as the kind of person I wish I was, instead of actually working to improve my shitty life externally. Booze and drugs are something you can go into treatment for and have people help hold you accountable, or just notice when you're starting to slip again and remind you why you don't want to go back. When it's all inside my head and harmless, there's no external accountability and no reason to stop because it's not outright destroying my life or health in a way that's demanding attention. yet, just making me miss out on my own life and keeping me stuck when I could probably be doing a lot better. But the fake reality is easier and kinder and just altogether better, so I can't give it up. Story 12 probably depends on your predisposition. I know alcohol gets a ton of hate on Reddit, but I am the kind of drinker where I can do it once a month or once every 6 months or go an entire year and not touch it. Have 4, 6 drinks, get a decent buzz, quit for the night. Sober by the time I go to bed, no hangover the next day. Same with caffeine. Drink coffee at work in the morning, mostly a social thing. I don't touch the stuff when I am not working. Sugar is probably my weak point, if I am being honest. I also am a bit of a compulsive shopper, but budgeting what I spend helped me with that. Story 13. For me, it's food, because you have to learn to actually have your addiction several times a day, but still keep it in check. I had an ed for 32 years, 3 months clean today, and it's been awful. I have permanent kidney damage and still going through testing to find out the extent of damage from my addiction. A lot of days I wish I didn't have to eat to survive. I hate having to face my enemy 3 times a day. I have to go to battle with it multiple times a day. I have to see it everywhere. Everyone wants me to eat. My work leaves food in the break room. There's holidays, family gatherings. My nemesis is everywhere. I don't ever get away from it. I gave up smoking and drinking without a thought, cold turkey, because I didn't have to have it in my home to live. People don't understand how hard it is. They laugh and say, just eat normally. They think it's easy because they can do it. I wish I didn't have to eat ever again. Story 14, sugar. The entire Western world is addicted. Over 80% of the population can't go a day without it, and 40% can't go a morning without it. Guaranteed addictive, easy to abuse. Abuse guarantees health problems and years knocked off your lifespan. For those 40% who can't go a morning without it may even lose a decade or two. Children are not trained and addicted to tobacco and cocaine and caffeine and other things like sugar. Story 15, all of them. Being honest with your closest friend or family member is a big help when you are feeling truly down or broken inside. Trust someone and just talk it out. You will always feel better, and it will help your brain break out of its bad cycle of negative thoughts. And always be nice to yourself, as nice as you can. It is very easy to start a negative train of thoughts in your own mind, and then that easily snowballs and you feel constantly worse, stuck sometimes in the hell of your own creation in your own mind. It is a very difficult thing to break out of on your own. Find a trusted confidant and talk to them, be honest. Always choose wisely, they will keep your trust, and you will be all the better for it. Story 16. Every kind of addiction that feels good at the moment, but harm the person in every way, is a hard addiction to quit. Hopefully the people who are fighting their addiction to quit get the support they need to stop it and move on with their lives and reach the highest level of success. For the ones who are lost, may Allah guide them to the right path and quit their addiction as well. Story 17, food. Even if you know you have a problem, even if you try to work on it, it's tough to control BCS. You have to partake in it regularly. No cold turkey, no substitute behaviors. You have to completely rework your relationship with food and work on behavioral patterns that at times you've been building up for decades. In NA meetings, you're not even allowed to mention the drug you abused, BCS. It could make people relapse. Now imagine you have to take your drug regularly, despite being addicted to it. Story 18. I went on a sugar-free diet at one point, temporary. It was torture. The cravings were insane. I wanted soda and wanted sweets like I wanted sleep. I would bite into a cookie and then spit it out just to say that I had tasted it. I would have to wait until right before food hall closed, college, to get my food and leave without taking any dessert. Then I would go to my dorm and cry because I wanted sugar so bad and I couldn't go back. After several weeks, the cravings eventually stopped, and when I could go back to eating sugar again, it was off-putting, sickly sweet, and made me feel immediately awful. Story 19. The hardest in my experience would probably be caffeine and SH. It took me a lot of years to stop SH, and I have not succeeded in getting off caffeine because it's everywhere and easy to get. The headaches and getting unmotivated to do anything once you try and stop are the worst. I think SH and caffeine go hand in hand for me because when I try and quit caffeine, I can only think of SH. All addictions are hard to quit when you are addicted to them. Addictions can be anything. Story 20. Alcohol and actually functioning at work, but needed to socialize in the slightest cause. People piss me off with sheer stupidity, almost on a world scale. Starting off drinking 63% rum, took down to whiskey, sherry, normal wine, then beer, but beer is the one I can't kick. Strong beer too. There's gotta be a pill or something that they aren't releasing, cause the Govey makes too much of the sale. Any solutions? Story 21. Many addictions are tough to beat. There's not a toughest one, really. The thought of needing a substance to be able to get by is the toughest part. And this can be for any drug depending on how psychologically and physically dependent the person is to the substance. I have always gone through waves of using different drugs. When I've had enough of one or more, either because of not enjoying it anymore or physically needing to stop it, I stop for a bit and then move on to the next one. Same thing with hobbies and music for me too. Obsessed for a bit and then bored of it and try something new. That said, there's certainly addictions that are much more dangerous, and addictions that are much quicker to kill a person, and drugs that take control of a person's body and mind quicker and with more severity. Heroin, opiates, alcoholism, amphetamines, etc. Story 22. I'd say gambling. Once you've started, you'll keep on going until you've lost a lot. And you'll still keep on going to chase the losses. I know a lot of people who've pawned a lot of things and end up being in a lot of debt because of this. It's not just you that'll be affected, but also the people around you. Story 23. Alcohol. It's highly addictive, so to quit, you first have to battle the internal demons associated with all addictive substances, but it takes more determination and internal strength because complete avoidance is not possible. It's everywhere and always being offered. It comes in many types: wine, beer, whiskey, cocktails, etc. Whole establishments are dedicated to providing it. Restaurants offer dozens of alcohol options and barely any non-alcoholic choices. There's a slight stigma when you go about not having it. Maybe because it's a big moneymaker and a non-alcoholic tab is not so profitable. People assume everyone else drinks it. It's often at the center of social events and gatherings. Some friendships are predicated on it. So choosing not to drink often means losing the company of those friends. It might be in your own house and served daily while you are quitting. It's not uncommon for one's spouse or partner to continue drinking. Even after you quit, you might feel obligated to provide it for others who visit. Holidays, celebrations, sports viewing, etc. From what I can tell many years into my own struggle, it never ends completely. A hint desire for alcohol remains like a slow burn in the background of the psyche. In my experience, I've also quit nicotine, benzos, opiates, caffeine, and marijuana, though I find that cannabinoids are not really addictive. For more context, I've also used but never run into problems with cocaine, meth, nitrous, and hallucinogens. Story 24. Attention. I am addicted to getting positive attention and will take it from wherever I can get it. I think it stems from being seriously bullied for being weird/less than pretty my whole life. Now that I'm comfortable in my own skin and know how to take care of my hair, skin, etc., I look good and I get some positive attention and it feels great. I'm married though, and I have a very hard time turning down attention from people outside my marriage. I realize this makes me a trash human and I should probably seek counseling. Story 25. Food was my absolute worst. I dabbled in binge drinking and the usual stupid stuff in my 20s, and it never was a problem to stop. But food, what do you do when you have to have it to survive? Then I moved from a rural area to Chicago where anything I've ever wanted was available all the time. When you love food too much and 200 restaurants are in delivery range to your house, you are fucked. 5 pounds a year for 20 years and nothing helped stop the cravings. Finally got on some weight loss drugs this year, and am down 25 pounds since January. They've given me my life back from my toxic relationship with food. Story 26. Food. Food addictions, aka eating disorders, are the hardest because you cannot permanently quit eating. You have to learn how to live in a stable relationship with food. You always have the source of your addiction in front of you, and you have to restrain yourself from the temptation of giving up and have a dose. It's like asking a heavy drinker to drink just 1 glass of alcohol every day and to restrain themselves while being surrounded by alcohol discussions and normal people drinking wherever you turn your head. Story 27. I think food. I can't stop eating or I'll die. It's everywhere. The food noise is insane too. Constantly thinking about it. Medications like Ozempic are helping people who have intense food noise. It doesn't just stop you from feeling hungry, it stops you from the constant thinking about it too. Story 28. Benzos. I'm 11 years clean, and from what I've seen in recovery, it is the stickiest. Meth is likely a worse thing to be addicted to because if you do enough, you might not be okay even once you're clean. But just in terms of quitting, it's benzos. If anyone currently fighting addiction is reading this, it was indeed super hard and horrible at times, but what my life has become makes it entirely worth it. Story 29. This might sound stupid, but I've been addicted to caffeine multiple times. It was ruling my day. Everything revolved around the next drink. I would drink 4 to 6 20 Oz Diet Cokes a day. If I didn't drink frequently enough, I felt terrible. After a while, I just felt terrible all the time and thought the next drink would make me feel better. I then one day had a thought. What if it's not the lack of caffeine making me feel terrible, but actually the caffeine making me feel terrible? I'm currently off of drinking caffeine and really hope I can keep it going. I know it sounds dumb because it is just caffeine, not hard drugs, but I definitely feel more compassion for those with addictions. Because if it is this hard for me with caffeine, it must feel like moving a mountain with things that are much worse. Story 30. Caffeine is pretty hard. I was a Mormon missionary in my younger days. I helped lots of people give up alcohol, cigarettes, and coffee. When people actually have a goal/reason/purpose, it seemed like they could easily kick alcohol and their smokes, but coffee was always the hardest one. Maybe it's the ubiquity of caffeine or the lesser health dangers. Gambling is one where that I think is also hard to quit, because it has a potential upside that no other addiction has. There is no, if I do heroin long enough, it will solve all the problems caused by my earlier heroin use, with hard drugs like there is with gambling. You are always just one hand, race, lotto ticket, dice toss, or pull away from the big score that will solve all your problems. Also, I think the comment section shows that there's two different interpretations of the word hard to quit. Hard as in lowest success rate or hard as in the most difficult and painful. Quitting sugar has an incredibly low success rate for lots of the reasons mentioned in the comments, but it's not going to be nearly as difficult from a physiological perspective as something like heroin or opiates.